All right, welcome MCT4Cers, day 64. This is the start of the end, day one of chapter 7, the last chapter in our book. Um, and it's on mostly review stuff. At least the first half of the chapter is all on stuff that we've done before. Now, we're spending a day today. Um, the goal of the 3-minute review is on some conversions. This idea of converting, you know, between metric and metric, between imperial and imperial measurements, and between imperial and metric units. And we'll see a few different ways to do this. And some of this stuff you'll kind of know as second nature, and some of them you won't know at all. And then today will be, a good learning experience. 7D2, that's inches, right? Inches. That means feet. And we want to change it to how many feet. Well, what's the rule? 1 foot is 12 inches, right? And we want to know, well, how many feet is 72 inches. There's a couple ways we can do that. We could, just figure out, well, what did I do to get from 12 to 1? Well, I got to do that to 72. I just go 72 divided by 12, right? That's what I did here. I divided by 12. And I could kind of use a ratio type thing. Another way, if you can't really see that, I'm going to use the spot over there. We're going to use these techniques quite a bit. Same sort of thing. Or if this is feet and this is in inches, I set up a little proportion like this. So I got 1 over x equals 12 over 72, and I can just cross multiply and divide. And divide by 12. And this is one of the techniques we're going to use quite a bit. This lesson, this unit. 6 feet. 500 meters to kilometers. Well, meters are short compared to kilometers, so this number is going to get smaller. And remember, the idea is it's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So this is just 0.5. I can just move the decimal place there, right? 1, 2, 3 spots, 0.5. Liters to milliliters. Milliliters are small, so this is going to get big, right? And the little rule is 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. If I needed to, I could, set up a ratio or a proportion, but this one I think I can handle it. Most of these we should be okay. 4.5 liters is 4,500 milliliters. Pounds and ounces is, the American Imperial style. Quarter pounder, there it is right there, quarter pounder with cheese. Looks good. Is how many ounces? Well, again, you kind of need to know one of these facts, but in the American style. And what it is, it's 1 pound is 16 ounces. Say, well, what happens if I don't know this rule? Well, then you're kind of out of luck, except for there's things that we can do. We'll give you a hint there as well. So 1 pound is 16 ounces. So what is a quarter pound? Well, we divide by 4, right? See that? Divide by 4, 4 ounces. 4 ounces of meat in that beautiful hamburger there. Next one. 850 centimeters cubed in liters. Again, this is metric and this is metric, but this is the sort of 2 different ways to measure volume, right? We think of volume as, length times width times height, and that's how we get the centimeters cubed, but we also think of it in fluids like liters, right? So what's the rule? Well, the rule over here, 1 centimeter cubed is 1 milliliter. And I always think of those little blocks that you used in in elementary school, right? Those little 1 centimeter cubes, that's 1 milliliter. It's a small amount. And then if I think of that, that's not so bad, because this is 850 milliliters, and then I change that to liters the same way that I did up here. Well, actually, it's the opposite way, isn't it? Because I know this is true. I move the decimal place over. This isn't quite a whole liter. Number 6, gallons and pints and tablespoons. And this might be one. This is one that I didn't know. I had to look this one up, and it's just because I'm not familiar with this. If you work, in the avocado and you deal with pints and tablespoons, or maybe in a garage somewhere where you're dealing with pints of oil and gallons of gas and all that business, maybe you're familiar with this. But if not, then you're going to need to look something up. And there's charts and stuff all over the textbooks and internet or whatever, but this is the one I found, and this one's pretty neat. There's gallon is the biggest one, and then there's 4 quarts, as you can see, in a gallon, and then 2 pints in each quart. So how many pints are in a gallon? Well, there's 8 of them, right? And this little chart shows that there's 1 gallon is 8 pints. And in fact, I can go all the way to tablespoons. Tablespoons, 256 tablespoons. So if I go back, 1 gallon is 8 pints, which is 256 tablespoons. This, that's a lot of tablespoons. The rule there, the pints to tablespoons, is right here, right? One pint is 32 tablespoons. Okay? 1 pint, 32 tablespoons. A short for tablespoons is usually this. TSP, or even just the capital T shows it's the bigger one rather than teaspoon, is usually little tsp. Sometimes you'll see TBSP for tablespoons. And again, these ones, if you're in cooking or if you're in some profession, some field that uses these special measures, you'll be required to memorize those probably. And if not, like me, you can look them up. I will come back to that one soon. This is in your note. This is on the second page. Here's the lesson. Perform conversions between the imperial and metric measurement systems. We've been thinking about this already. Here, this first example, we just want to sort of get a feel for how much we know these measurements. It says put a greater than or a less than or an equal sign in between the two measurements. So which is bigger, 36 inches or 1 meter? Well, this is 36 inches is 3 feet, right? 3 feet, because 12 inches is a foot. That's 3 feet. And 3 feet is actually a yard. And hopefully you know that meters are bigger. So 36 inches is smaller. And hopefully we can just get through these fairly quickly. 6 feet and 200 centimeters. Well, I think of 200 centimeters, I'm thinking of 2 meters. Like 2 meter sticks tall, 6 foot tall person, which is bigger. 6 foot is shorter than 2 meter sticks put on top of each other, isn't it? And then some of these are tough. Like which is longer, 4 miles or 5 kilometers? Well, how do you remember that one? That one's really tough. The way I remember it, the connection between miles and kilometers is that 4 laps of a track, 4 laps of a standard track, that's 1 mile. But it's also 400 meters. So I remember that connection. The 1 mile is the same as 1.6 kilometers. So as it turns out, 4 miles is a little bit bigger than 5 kilometers. 100 kilos and 200 pounds. 100 kilos, even though we don't really think in kilos as far as weight, 200 pounds is a fairly big man, right? But 100 kilograms is actually quite a bit more than that, right? The rule that we'll see, conversion charts and that sort of thing, we're going to use the conversion chart, is 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. And so 100 kilograms is a lot more, actually. 10 milliliters in tablespoons. Well, if you're not in cooking class, if you don't work in the avocado, you might not be familiar with this. A tablespoon is actually like that big soup spoon, right? That's kind of like that big soup spoon. But how would you know what 10 milliliters is? Is it more than a tablespoon? Well, if you can't remember, one thing is where is it here? Go to the kitchen and look. Well, there's a tablespoon, and it's 15 milliliters, right? A tablespoon is actually a lot more than 10 milliliters. 1 tablespoon is 15 milliliters, so 10 is less. 2.5 cups in a liter. What do we think about? A cup is like a cup of milk, a little cup of milk, and a liter. Well, I always think of a liter as kind of like a bag of milk. So can I get 2.5 cups out of a liter? Yes, I can. In fact, I can get more. So probably this one's less than, even though we will check these later. This one was hard for me. I actually, when I first did this one, I got it wrong. 1/8 of an inch in 5 millimeters. This is be the sort of thing that you're talking about with Mr. Collings if you're in machine shop, right? 1/8 of an inch or 5 millimeters. And both of these are very small measurements. So how are you going to figure that out? Well, 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters, right? And so if I divide that by 8, that's around 0.3 centimeters, which is about 30 millimeters, even though we'll do this one exactly soon. 1/8 of an inch is about 0.3 or 3 millimeters rather. So this is less. And I actually had thought, I was thinking of a ruler, and I thought that was more, but it's not. 12 ounces and 200 grams. Well, remember, 12 ounces, and this is a tough one because we don't think in American weights very often. 1 pound is 16 ounces. Right? We thought about that one yesterday. But 1 pound's also 454 grams. And the way I think of this is like a thing of pasta, and maybe you don't cook much yet, but pasta comes in 1 pound packages. Or even you can get the 1 pound of chips, and that's that 454 grams. That's 1 pound. So 12 ounces is most of that, but 200 grams is less than half. So 12 ounces is more than that 200 grams. All right, I'm pausing it there, and we'll pick it up in part 2 in just a minute.